Hello everyone. As you can see, we are on to this first week of February, January, February, and you can see the mess that I've made over to the side. I really want to kind of go for vibrancy, I think, in this picture, and I want to go ahead and go back to using my watercolors as a base. Really have been enjoying those, and I want to explore watercolors more. I have actually ordered a set of watercolors to come to the house to play even more largely for some ideas with some backgrounds and just some really basic use of the watercolors. But for today, I am using some Castle Art watercolors and my Koh-I-Nors as well, and you can see by the choice of the colors here that we're going for very vibrant. After all, it's rainforest, toucan, however you say that, that we're going to be kind of working on. I really don't have a good plan for this, but I'm going to, like I said, use those watercolor pencils and then kind of go from there and see where it takes us. I wish I had some masking fluid because I would love to do a really quick background like a lot of people do, but I have no masking fluid. However, I have prepped these pages and I wanted to talk about this. So this is very similar to what, well, this is exactly what the Art Spirits does. Rebecca, I believe is her name as well over there. I've watched her for years, and she likes doing watercolors, and she does a lot here in the coloring books. And the idea is to do a lot of practicing in coloring books to get used to moving and controlling the water. But I did go ahead and prep it. So what this is Art Basics Gesso and Clear. And all it does is prime your paper. And the idea being that maybe it will give me a little bit easier to blend my watercolors, give me more time to maybe have and be able to do some more layering and to reduce the buckling. Now, as you can see, it's already kind of curved because it's been wet with the gesso, but it's pretty flat. It's still very, very flexible, which I like. But I did both sides of the paper, and I have to say, when I went to go do this, I put quite a lot of water to blend these out, or to activate them, or whatever you want to call them, and it handled it really, really well. So I was really happy with that. So I'm looking forward to working over here, trying to work with these, but I did just put a layer. Now, the reason why I didn't show you is because I actually did this 2 days ago. They do suggest that you give it 24 hours in between. So I did it ahead of time, and then now, of course, I'm starting to do the coloring and the art aspect. So that's why. But I'm going, you know, I know what it was like over here and even here. And it just makes me think I probably could have got even more intense colors and maybe more blends if I had put the gesso. But we're going to kind of see what the difference is and if that's what I need to do going forward. There are lots of different mediums. The Art Spirits, like I said, has done tons of reviews of these and how she uses them. And she does these great little where she grids off the paper, and she'll do like just clear gesso, and then she might do white gesso, and then over here she might do nothing, and then over here she might do gesso with some other medium mixed into it as well. And then she usually has watercolor paper to kind of show you the difference, because of course that's ideally what we have is watercolor paper, but you know, my planner here is not, and I don't have any watercolor papered coloring books. So I really want to see if this is something for me to be able to use going forward and just start. And I know there's tons of people who use watercolors all the time in their books and things. They do beautiful jobs. I just have no experience with watercolors. So I'm very, very rudimentary and just beginning my process. I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and start with, gosh, I think the background behind is what I want to go to. And I'm going to do kind of a sunrise, sunset kind of, or whatever you want to call it in the background. So I'm going to be very, very careful with this, but I'm very nervous because there's a lot of places I could like, it's very detailed. So I'm not sure how well this is going to turn out, but I am going to go ahead and kind of, oh, this is really nerve-wracking. But so I'm going to be layering my colors and then activate him. So I'm going to go ahead and let you watch that, but I'm not going to really talk through it, just kind of how I'm doing the background. All right, fingers crossed. Okay, scratch that. I forgot. I'm going to actually do something a little bit different, but it's still kind of the same idea. So I really want to do a lot of oranges and greens and yellows in this. That's primarily with him being a dark bird. I thought it would kind of pop, and it gives me a lot of leeway with the flowers and things. So I'm actually going to start, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and do the background and start working on that. And that I'm going to start out with, so I have my Koh-I-Nor yellow, and I'm going to kind of go from this side over to deeper reds and oranges to over where the flowers are. So I'm just going to start coloring in. After I sharpen a little bit. So you might be noticing right now, so what I'm thinking, I'm really worried about whenever I go to activate, this is just going to puddle everywhere, but I'm just coloring in, and then I do my backing into the previous color, because I want this red to be more of just a really deep orange, not so much a stark red. So I'm hoping to be able to blend that. And then I'll just go a little bit lighter as I keep moving out, and this is just with some cadmium orange, the Castle Art set. So they're laying down beautifully, very easily, both the Koh-I-Nor and the Castle Arts. There is a little bit of extra texture to the paper now, which actually I'm wondering going forward if to do that, because sometimes Johanna's paper can be kind of slick, but it's doing really well of being able to easily take up this the watercolor, which might seem, I don't know, you're looking at it going, oh look, there's a lot of white and stuff. Well, we don't have to worry about that, because once we kind of add the water to the colors, they're going to move all around and get into all those crevices. Now, if I was doing this with just straight prismas, that might be more of a challenge. So I definitely would say that the putting on the gesso is for your more of your kind of liquid, water heavy materials. Acrylic paint, I'm sure it does well. Gouache, those kind of things that we're adding water. I know, and I didn't watch it because I don't have any of my alcohol markers anyway, but I know at one point, the Art Spirits, she did also check to see how alcohol markers did on with the gesso. So, and whether it bled through. I'll have to go back and watch that to determine if that's, if it worked or not. I don't know. Because if it does, then yay, you can use your alcohol markers without it bleeding through to the other side. And do they behave like alcohol markers in the blendability and smoothness without getting those streaky lines would be very interesting. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and bring in my little bit lighter orange. Oh, that was my lighter orange. Oops. So this is my Koh-I-Nor orange, and it is actually darker. So I'm going to go back and kind of work on this, I guess, and then bring back that orange. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll bring you back when I'm ready to try to start to add the water. All right, so nerves be done. Here we go. So, I mean, I'm not doing anything really watercolory other than activating. Ooh, it does work though. I have a smaller brush coming, but for now I'm having to use this. Look at that crazy hair. Oh well, I'll go and trim it off later. If I was a real artist, I'm sure I'd have to have it trimmed now. Plus I'd probably have more expensive brushes, blah, blah, blah. But for now, I'm just having fun. So the colors are doing well, but I'm not really got over into the mixes yet. The fact that I was able to pick up some, so watch, I actually can color in there with the paint that's on my brush because it is moving around, which is good. All right, let's see how this is gonna blend. I'm now gonna start getting into the color that, you know, that's probably a little bit easier to see. Let's see how this works. Holy cow, okay. Yeah, gesso's making a difference. I did not have this ease. Definitely, wow. Yeah, that's doing a really nice job. Look at that. I'm even able to back it all the way back into here. Yeah, it's impressive. All right. Yeah, well, see, look at that. I don't know how well you can see that. Let me bring you in a little bit closer. Yeah, it's actually moving around on the paper like you would expect one. Now, this is very heavily done with the oranges and the reds. So, wow. Yeah, that's a very different experience with the gesso than what I was experiencing before. Wow, yeah. And if you notice, look at this, it's staying wet long enough for me to come back in even. Actually, I want to take, we're going to come up here to where we have a natural break first. Some really pretty colors. All right. Got a bit of a puddle there. Yeah, see, but I'm able to come back in. Wow. It is behaving a lot different. I'm going to take this advantage because there's a little bit of a break. Move this around a little bit more, let it blend. But I want to go ahead and use my really tiny brush. This one's called, it's a rigger, a #1 rigger. There was a lady who I loved watching. I think Bunny was her name. And I haven't seen anything new in years, but she was fascinating. She really could do a lot with watercolors. And she used a rigger most of the time because of these small, small details. Seeing if I can get these. Because this is where I was worried. In these details, I was going to have a really marked difference with the watercolors. Almost like I was scared it would dry so quickly and I'd have a line. But because we're getting a little extra time to play because of the gesso, that's awesome. So I can get into these smaller details right now. Bring the yellow over because it does get dark really quick. But see, because it reactivates because it hasn't completely dried, so I'm able to get more of that kind of that blend watercolor look, which I really love, without seeing the grains of the watercolor. Wow. Can you tell I'm enjoying this? Very surprised. Because with coloring books, we have a lot more like really, really small crevices and places to get into. And then of course with this being a reduced picture anyway, that's definitely going to add to that. Yeah, I mean, it's still moving, which is great. Usually, you know, it soaks in so quickly and you really can't get stuff. I mean, I'm even going back down here and look at this. That's fantastic. Very, very happy with that. I'm gonna take the little rigger and just go in for all those little tiny details. Okay, I'm still able to blend that in. Awesome. See how there's a line right here, right there, And look at that. I can move it still because the paper is still a little bit wet. And that's because of the gesso. You would not normally, I mean, this paper would totally have absorbed that, and then that line would have been there. So that's fantastic. Very, very happy. Makes me want to stop. And like not do any other colors because I'm scared I might mess it up at some point, but wow, really enjoying this. And it is, it's giving me an opportunity to kind of play around with the water and see how this moves and all that. Oop, there's a little spot that I missed all the way down here. Yeah, that is just really fantastic. All right, very happy with that. Very, very happy with that. Let's go ahead and pop out a little bit. Yeah, but I will say this. I mean, I now have to really just pause, and it hasn't come through. We've got more buckling going on at this point. I mean, because we've just added water. I probably could actually tape this down, which I might think about doing. But I'm going to let this dry, really dry, because then I think what we'll go ahead and do is possibly come in and work on the toucan at this point. And I want to go out and do some studying of some pictures and things. I'm not going to do each individual area. I think we're going to do a big thing of kind of mostly black with a couple little hints here and there of color. The beak is of interest to me though, because I've seen some really neat things with the beak. So I'm going to go out and do some looking on that, and then work my way out to the sides with all of the floral and stuff. But yeah, really like that so far. Makes me want to just stop and leave it alone. Don't go any further, but I will. And of course I will bring you along. So now I'm going to go let this dry, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now. So we're on to day 2, and this is completely dry. I'm really quite happy, as you can tell possibly here. Even the buckling on this side, I mean this side's a little bit higher, it's done really well. So that gesso is definitely the key if you're wanting to use some type of wet medium or supply on here. So actually I'm gonna put that back over here. So we're gonna go ahead, I'm gonna start working on the toucan, and I'm gonna have to do this in layers as far as letting the different layers dry. But we're gonna start with putting in what I'm gonna consider as kind of the highlights and stuff, and going for a more natural look with him than to some degree, while still being very vibrant with these colors. All right. So what I'm going to do first is I'm kind of sketching out where I'm going to probably do the blacks and different things like that. And we're going to start in with just putting in some of this cerulean blue, and that's just for any possible highlights. And I'm just going to put this ever so lightly around. And then I have to let that dry. Now I'm just going to wet it. I'm just going to go in with my yellow and do some coloring in here, because we'll have some yellow on the beak. So this is kind of like the base colors. And then I'm going to do just a little tad of the cadmium orange from Castle Arts, and just kind of put a little hint of some shadows. I'm going to go ahead and flip this over and redo my clips. All right, so I'm going to let that dry, and then we'll come back and we'll keep kind of doing added layers to it, because I do want some of this blue to be able to stay. I don't want it to muddy up whenever I start bringing in any type of black or gray or anything like that. And I need to go and do some more. Oh, there's actually, we're going to go ahead, and I saw this on a picture and thought that was kind of cool. We're going to do some red underneath for his tail. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and start the next process, kind of as a layer is my understanding. So, and that's going to be adding more of the black. So if I think about it, I'm going to start putting more black in here, in this area. And I like these pencils because for right now, since I'm really just learning about watercolors, it's kind of nice because I kind of can go back to my pencil roots of where I think shadows should be, and I can put a little bit heavier pencil, watercolor pencil down, and kind of keep that in mind as I'm doing this this bird, because I don't know really what I'm doing with these watercolors. So, but that's a part of the process of learning, and I'm enjoying that. So that's fun. So we're just gonna. So I love the vividness of these colors. This has been so fun, and I decided I just wanted to challenge myself and try watercolors, various different kinds, not just the pencils. I have bought myself a set of watercolors, pan watercolors, so I will be trying those at a different time. But right now I want to keep just using these and see where we go from here. Because those other watercolors just came in yesterday. So like I said, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with all these little squiggles. I might make them stand out by using the Posca on them at some point, but for right now, we're just gonna, you know me, going cautiously. So this whole idea of layering on watercolors, I find kind of interesting. I didn't realize that was a thing. All right, moment of truth. Tell you, this has been a little bit nerve-wracking, just because every time I see something, I'm like, oh, I like this better, and I don't want to mess it up. But you know, gotta live and learn. You gotta try. I think what I'm learning more than anything about art in general is a lot of it is just trial and error. And the errors become signature methods for a lot of artists. You know, the very things that we remember about artists probably was in their attempt of imitating another artist, they just developed this error and it became theirs uniquely. Wow. It must be the same dog. So we have not been having dog bark issues while living here. And in the last, I don't know, couple days, and I haven't been looking at the clock to know what time it is, so I don't know if it's the same time every day. There's been I think there's a new dog on the block that is a barky dog and stirs up trouble. I don't know. The easiest thing would be just, you know, color them black, or paint them black, I should say. And then come in with a Posca and kind of outline them, but I want to see if I can learn a little bit of water control even on non-watercolor paper. So biggest thing I'm learning right now is brush and where the watercolor gets pushed to, depending on what I'm doing with the brush. So that's kind of a neat little thing to learn. I've watched lots of videos where it looks like they just wash the paper with water and then they put these splotches on, and before long it turns into mountains and trees and all this stuff, and I'm like, oh, what happened? But I've also now started watching other watercolorists that aren't doing necessarily those kind of landscape, which I love, and I do hope to do that at some point. Some of those kind of magical sunset or landscapes where they just put the splashes of color everywhere and then overwater them, and voila, you've got a mountain scene. But watching some other ones, seeing that they then go back in and do a lot of details, and they'll do details with a little bit drier watercolor, smaller brushes, waiting for layers to dry, things like that. And I think that's really cool because I didn't realize that went on with watercoloring. And then at the very end, they'll come in with their colored pencils and finish stuff up too. So that is really kind of what I'm hoping in the future to be able to do more of. That would be so cool. But I'm kind of just doing it through what I'm watching and seeing on YouTube. Never had any art lessons other than I did have a wonderful art teacher in 6th and 7th or 6th grade. Yeah, I think it was only 1 year I took art, and then I transferred into something else. And but I stayed in band and eventually had my art teacher's husband as my band director in high school. So that was fabulous. So I still got to keep in touch with her. But it was very funny because she was not very happy when I left art. And then look at me all these years later. I'm not playing my instrument and I'm not doing anything else. I'm doing art. So maybe she knew something. Or I'm trying to do art, I should say. So I am going to leave that to really let dry. And I'm trying to figure out how much of this white and how I want to change it up a little bit, because they do have a big thing of white, but I'm trying to figure out how I might want to do these little decorations. I think I'm going to be doing, it's really interesting to see how people make shadows and stuff. So I want to do it because it's white. I want to do it in blue, the shadow type stuff, but I've seen people be using a lot of green kind of. So maybe I'll do just a little bit of green shadow and then bring in, I might have to get another color like a brown. But they kind of have like where the shadows would be is kind of these green to yellow colors. So maybe we'll do that. Well, I'm doing it now, aren't I? One way or the other. One way or another. I'm on a color. I'm on a color. One way or another. And that's pathetic. I need to stop it. Okay. Put just a little bit of yellow in there. A little bit lighter yellow. They ended up doing is it ended up looking a little bit brownish yellow. All right, let's see what mess I just did. Actually, not too bad. It does look a little bit like a shadow. I think I still need to. All right, I'm gonna let that sit and dry for a little bit and then come back and keep going. All right, so I'm gonna go in and do a little bit more, adding in a little bit of more blue here and there to mix with my future blacks, just to give it a little bit of dimension. Very rarely do I like just a flat black, so. All right, so I think this is going to be the last for today. It's going to be kind of late in the afternoon. I have some groceries I need to put away. I'll let this sit out and dry overnight, and then I'll come back tomorrow and see where I go from there. I, of course, still have the leaves over here to color, but those don't take that long. As you notice, I've already done the ones over here, and I like the watercolor effect. I think I'm going to be playing with this toucan a little bit longer and coming back in and really darkening him up, because I do want him. I like the differences here. I'm not particularly happy with what I did there, but underneath his chin, but we'll see. Maybe I can figure out something to do tomorrow. I think I went above my capabilities trying to do some blending, and I just kind of made a muddled little blop underneath his chin there, but we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. It is not yet the end. All right, he's gonna sit there and dry. I knew he was going to be the toughest thing, but we're going to sit there and let him dry really well overnight, and then I will come back tomorrow and work on him some more. Have a great day. Bye. Wow, what a muddled mess we have. No, actually it's not too bad, but it is definitely in that crazy stage where you're feeling not too confident. At least I'm not. However, we're going to go in and work on this toucan, and I'm going to go ahead and bring in my watercolor set, which this is just a Paul Rubens watercolor set. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I want to really have more control and try to get a little bit deeper of the, and be able to move the water a little bit more. More control because I can have a smaller tip size than necessarily even with the pencils themselves. Ooh, this black is really dark. So I'm just going to start going in and kind of going into those places that I know I want a little bit darker, just to give it a little bit of shading. Then once I let it sit there for just a little bit, I will go back in and kind of spread it with some water. But this black watercolor now on top of this is really going to heighten the color differences and changes in it, I believe. Don't know, never done this before. Now, I am very late in getting this one up because I had 3 days with absolutely no sun in this apartment. It was cloudy, rainy, and a little bit snowy, so the lighting was just horrible. I since have went out and purchased a second light, and that's what we're using today because we have yet another day of gloomy winter time. So I was really hoping to get this done last week, and I've now had to go into the next week. This it's now the 7th. It's February the 7th. It's Monday, so I couldn't see to do anything, much less record it. Oop. Sorry about that. Another downside to my filming setup. I kick the camera all the time. All right, we're just gonna put some more black down here. Now, just remember how many layers I've already put of water on this, and if I hadn't primed it with that gesso, it'd be such a, it would just destroy the paper how much I've done on this. So that gesso is making a huge difference. It's definitely not playing exactly like watercolor paper. I don't want you to get that impression, but all right, we're gonna let that sit, and then I think I'm gonna come in and just kind of tidy everything up with my colored pencils. So, and maybe some of my Posca pen, and we'll see. Well, I think there we have it. It's kind of dried, and I was able to go in and use a little bit of my Signo around some of the feathers and then kind of smear it. So that was good. I love the intensity of the colors. It really works well for this picture. My technique, oof, I still have a lot of work to learn how to use these watercolors, that's for sure. And then my kind of, I think I overdid it a little bit in a couple places and it got a little bit muddy. So, but overall, pretty happy. Don't know that I could have done this anymore at this brightness without them. So, and I still really love the background. So I will continue. And that gesso, it did a really great job. The only thing that the gesso has done is make it where I really can't blend as well with the colored pencils that I've added in. It's made the paper's texture changed a little bit. So you definitely wouldn't want to gesso this and then try to use colored pencils only on it. It's definitely, gesso is great for making it much better for accepting kind of those water-based mediums, which is going to be really good. I don't have any alcohol marker, so I have no idea if that's enough to keep it from bleeding onto the other side. And I'm not going to be trying that necessarily. So we are into next week already, since this all got kind of because of the hole. Let me bring you out for a second. Here we go. So next week, or this week, so our next picture is supposed to be, wow, okay, that one's going to be a really, really busy one. Whew, okay. Goodness, so I think what I will probably end up doing, though, is I think I'm going to go ahead and gesso this one and bring in the watercolors again. I have a feeling I'm going to do a lot of watercoloring going forward in this, because it's just a great place for me to be practicing. So let me think about it, see what I'm going to do. I mean, again, I'm very limited on the supplies I can use anyway, so if I want to try to do anything kind of different, but maybe this time, instead of going for those really, really strong colors, I'll look in my watercolor set and see if I can do some different ones. So I haven't even been planning, as you can tell. Usually I take the weekend and plan. That wasn't going to happen this weekend because I needed to be working on this and getting that finished. So we'll see what's going on here. I'll definitely keep going, because this is the week we're in now. So it's Monday the 7th. And so I hope to have this up tomorrow, Tuesday the 8th, for you to be able to see the toucan there, and then we'll keep moving. But not sure what I'm going to do here. Interesting. Okay. Oh, so once again, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Oh, don't mind my Diet Coke there. That's while I'm doing this, you know, it is kind of fun to have the conversations in the comments afterwards about all this going on, but it's also very motivating for me to keep going, and I'm enjoying it, learning and you know, trying different things. So I want to keep going as long as I can. I know that when it gets to be about probably April, it's not going to happen as much, largely because hopefully by that time we'll be moving. So once we start the moving process, I'll have to step away from doing this, and then hopefully as soon as we get set up someplace else, I'll be able to have a much better setup and be able to really, really be able to work on these things, even if the weather is frightful, which it is right now. Can't even see New York. All right. Hope everybody has a wonderful week, and I'll see you at the end of the week with our next picture. So, and as I always say, keep coloring those pages. Bye for now.